Hi everybody. It's been a while since we've been together. I've really been missing you all since COVID sent us all into our houses to hibernate. And I know I've been missing you and thinking maybe you've been missing my banana bread. So I thought it would be fun to show you how I make it so you can make it at home. So before I get started, I always like to get all my ingredients out. And what you're going to need is you're going to need 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of soda, baking soda, 1 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 3/4 cup of flour. And these three will go in here and I'll mix them up later. Then you're going to need 2 tablespoons of milk. You're going to need 1/3 cup of butter or margarine. And that's the same as 5 1/3 tablespoons. If you look on your butter wrapper, it breaks it out by tablespoons. So you can go that way as well, or you can put it in a measuring cup. You're also going to need 2/3 cup of sugar and 2 regular eggs. I use this trusty recipe from this book I've had since I was a kid, probably as young as you are. So I've been making this banana bread for almost as long as I've been eating banana bread. And of course, you're going to need 2 to 2 1/2 ripe bananas. We might not have quite enough today. If we don't, I'll show you a little trick for how to substitute. You can substitute applesauce or yogurt if you run just a little bit shy of banana. And then I like to put cranberries, 1/4 cup of cranberries in my banana bread when I have it for me. Sometimes I don't do it for the greenhouse because not everybody likes it. But you could do that at home if you wanted to. Raisins or apricots or any dried fruit is really great, or nuts. So let's get going. I'm going to start by putting my 3/4 teaspoon of salt. This is 1/2 teaspoon, so that's that. And then I'm going to put 1/4 teaspoon. That's my salt. And then I need 1/2 teaspoon of soda. And so here's my 1/2 teaspoon. And we're going to scrape that right off the top so it's nice and level. And put that in. And then I have 1 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder. It has a nice little edge there so you can run your teaspoon right against it. And I have to do the extra 1/4 on this one. Oops, you also have to keep your wits about you because I used the half measure, but I need 1 1/4, so I need another half to make 1. So there, now we're good. I've got all the dry ingredients all set to go. This is what I usually have. I stir that all in so all of those other things are mixed in really well with the flour. And I will next get my bananas ready because I like everything kind of ready to go. So here we go. You might think these bananas are icky, but they're absolutely the best kind. You want them nice and ripe. They don't make very good banana bread if they're not really very ripe. So as you can see, sometimes it's a little tricky to peel them when they're this ripe. The skin comes off kind of funny, and I'll just poke them out like that. And it's always good to have a little spatula or something nearby to help you, because sometimes you do have to kind of scrape the pulp of the banana right off the skin here. So we've got one down. I'm going to put another one in here. Let's see. Try and get it open down the side, and then sometimes it'll pop out for you. That one went out much better than the last one, so that's good. So if you don't have a mixer, don't worry, because you can just, when the banana's really ripe like this, you can even use a fork to mash them up. But since I have the mixer, I'm going to use the mixer. Just put it on here a little bit. There, mixer down. Give that a little bit of time. So gosh, I wish you were all around me in my kitchen. We were doing this together. Maybe once the COVID is gone, we can do this at the greenhouse or as a field trip. All right, that's about enough for that. Take this up, use the spatula to get it off the beaters. So I have a 1 cup measure right here, so I'm going to scrape this down. And we'll see how close to a cup we have. Okay. There. So as I suspected, those bananas were a little small, so we could have probably used another banana. I don't have another banana, and I'm back, but I do have some applesauce, just regular applesauce. So I'm gonna just pour some applesauce in here until my applesauce is, that 1 cup is sort of full. And that looks just about right. So there we go. So now I have all my ingredients pretty ready to just go. But once I get stuff mixed up, it's really got to go in the oven. So the other thing I forgot to mention is you want to get your bread pan. And I used a little butter, or if you have Pam, you can just spray it with Pam. But I greased it with a little bit of soft butter. So that is ready to go. The other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set your oven at 350 degrees so it's warming up while you're getting the bread mixed, okay? We're going to set our timer for 350 degrees. Every stove is different. For mine, I just press bake and it comes up at 350, and then I press start. And that's all it takes. This little green light goes on for me, and when it's not green anymore, then we're ready to put it in the oven. All right. So, how do you start? Well, we start this recipe with the wet ingredients. So we're going to break 2 eggs in here, like that. Here's another one. And sometimes these can be tricky. Just be patient with them. And actually, that's not right. This recipe by heart since I've made it every Wednesday for almost 12 years. You start with the sugar and the butter, and you cream the sugar in the butter. And that's true for a lot of recipes. You cream the sugar and the butter together. So put that in here and put that down. And it's good to start slow because that butter can fly out of the bowl if you get the beaters going too fast. And what's going to happen is as the beater is beating up the butter with the sugar is going to stick to all the little pieces of butter and it's going to get really fluffy. So once it's all broken down and it's kind of looking like sugar with a little butter stuck around each little piece of sugar, which is what we're getting to. Now that we've got it smaller, I can turn it up a little bit and get it going. And then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so you see there, it's looking like little clumps of butter with the sugar stuck around, all stuck in it. And so that's what you want, get it nice and fine. And then you're going to take those 2 eggs, and I was supposed to do them one at a time into the batter. So I'm going to scooch it out of here with my spatula. 1 egg. And that's another thing you do with a lot of recipes. They'll have you add things a little bit at a time. And that's so things stay smooth. If you add too much liquid or too much solid, sometimes you get lumpy stuff. So there, now that's looking pretty good. I'm going to add the second one in there. And let that heat up so it's nice and smooth. So I hope you all have been finding ways to stay busy. I've been reading a lot of books. And next will be our milk. Again, we're adding all of these things in separately. Let that go. All right, and so the next thing we're going to do is something that you do a lot with muffins and breads, and that is you have wet ingredients and then you add dry ingredients. But in some recipes, you add a little bit of one and then a little bit of another and then a little bit, and that's what we're going to do with our applesauce and our dry ingredients. We're going to alternate, add about a third of our applesauce and bananas, and then about a third of our dry ingredients, and then we're going to go back and mix in another third, and we're going to make sure it's all mixed in. Again, we're trying to get it so that it's fluffy and smooth. And so we're going to start with that. I'm going to start with put in about a third of my, there, and let that all mix in. With the wet ingredients, you don't have to scrape the bowl so much, but sometimes with the dry ingredients you do. And I'm going to use this to scoop out about a third. I'm going to put that in there. There. So I'm going to stop the mixer for a little bit because the dry ingredients get pushed up all over the sides, and you want to make sure that you don't end up with stuff on the sides of your bowl that aren't really mixing in. So that should take care of that. And now I'm going to add a little bit more of this banana applesauce mixture that I started with. Let that mix in for a little while. And you can do all of this by hand if you want to. It's a little bit harder, obviously, but with the butter, if it's sort of soft and you mix it in with the sugar, you can blend it in sometimes with a fork and get it so that it's the same way as you would with a mixer. But if you have a little hand mixer or a big mixer like this, that of course makes it a lot easier. So now we're going to add in our second third of a cup, or not third of a cup, but third of our dry ingredients. Let's see how much I have left. I'm just going to put a little bit more. And then let that go. Okay. Scrape the bowl down again, because those beaters really send all that flour going everywhere. Gotta do the beaters again because they stop in one place and I can't scrape all the way around. So now we're right down to the very last bit of our banana applesauce mix. I'm just going to put all of that rest of it in here. Get the last little bit. Put that down again. Let that mix up. I hope you're all keeping up your homework and everything else. I miss our times with homework and I miss our times doing art together. Those are always really special times, but I'm glad to be able to sort of be with you doing this. So this was a great idea that Jackie had, so I'm glad that I can do it, and I hope you try it. That's good. So that's the rest of it. This is our last one. And then we're going to be ready to put in our dried fruit or our cranberries or apricots. Sometimes I have used apricots at the greenhouse, sometimes cranberries. But sometimes we'll have somebody who really doesn't like fruit and then I won't do that for a while. So this should be really good. And hopefully the oven will be ready by the time we're totally done. And that's because once that baking powder and baking soda gets wet, it starts to work. And what it does is it helps the cake rise, okay? Won't bake any kind of cake, without either baking powder or baking soda, and sometimes both. And those will help things go up, aside from bread where you could use yeast, but you usually don't use yeast in the bread or cake. So I'm going to put my cranberries in now, and we'll let that mix up a little bit. So you don't want it sitting on your stove, getting little bubbles, and then you go put it in the oven, and sometimes just the act of putting it in the oven can make all those bubbles pop, and then you will have kind of a flat cake. So hopefully I haven't messed it up too badly. Hopefully that oven will be pretty much warmed up by the time we're done with this. All right, so that's all there is to it. And now I'm going to take this off. I am right-handed, so I have to do this way because it's too awkward doing it with my left hand. Get the beaters all cleaned off so we get every bit of that great banana bread in our mix. And that won't work, I'll put that here. Alrighty, and then all there is to do is pour it in your pan, just like that. And one of these spatulas is really great because it gets every last bit of batter out, and it's really good at scraping round surfaces. Scrape and get it all in. You can go like that, and then I use the bowl to get it off my spatula. Still have some way down in the bottom, some on the side. I think that's going to be it right there. So there you go. You can see it's great banana bread ready to pop in the oven. And the oven's not quite ready yet, but let me tell you, it's going to cook for maybe 55 to 60 minutes, which is just about an hour. And you're going to want to test it before it comes out. So we're going to put it in the oven. I'm going to set my timer for 55 minutes, and then I will show you how you can use either a knife or a toothpick. And believe it or not, if you go to Bed Bath & Beyond, they even sell a little metal cake tester. But a toothpick or a fork or a knife probably best, will work very well. You stick it in, and if it comes out wet, well, you know there's still some damp batter in there that's not cooked into cake yet. So you want to give it just a little, maybe 5 minutes more, and try it again. And until it comes out nice and clean. If it's done, it'll go in and come right back out, and there won't be any batter on it, okay? So that's that. I'm going to be putting this into the oven, and then I will see you in about 55 minutes, or that's when I'm going to pick up the tape again, and I will show you how to test it. Okay, great. So now we're going to put it in the oven. Right down here on the bottom shelf, get it nice in the center so the air circulates evenly around it. And we're going to set the timer for 55 minutes. There we go. Whoops. Yep. And we're all set, so I'll see you in 55 minutes. Okay, well that's our buzzer, 55 minutes on our cake, or on our banana bread. I want to show you the 3 instruments that you can use. This is the kind of fancy cake tester. It's a fancy cake tester that you can use, but a toothpick as simple as this will work, or a knife, okay? So I'm going to use the toothpick because it's probably something you have at home. Oops. Excuse me for walking in front of the camera. I have to get a mitt out of my cupboard. All right, we're going to pull this out. Oh, it looks lovely, doesn't it? Now I like to stick it kind of right in the middle because that's where it's most likely might not be done. Okay? Well, it's a little hard to see. I was hoping I could show you, but well, you can sort of see. There's a little bit of stuff stuck on it. It's still a little moist right there on this crack down the middle. So I'm gonna give it 5 more minutes. Just put it back in the oven. I'm gonna give it 5 more minutes. Is it on? Okay, so now it's ready to check again. I think it's probably done because it seemed pretty close to done the last time. So now I'll use my fancy Dan tester. Stick it in there, pull it out. Well, I have a crumb, but it's not wet, so that's a good thing. That means it's probably done. So I'm gonna grab the pan. I'm gonna put it over here on the cooling rack. Shut up the oven. And now, before I take it out of the pan, I like to give it about 5 minutes to cool in the pan. So we're just gonna up the timer for 5 minutes, and I'll be back in 5 minutes and we will take it out of the pan. Okay, so that is 5 minutes of cooling. And what I do is I take a knife and I run it around the outside edge of the pan. Then I take the pan and I tip it over, and sometimes I get that thread into my hand, lift the pan away and drop it down. And then I'm gonna just let it cool until it's ready, it's nice and cool, and then I can wrap it up in some foil or put it in a plastic bag or whatnot. But Mr. Weeks is watching me do this video, and I know that he is not going to wait until this cools off. So I did want you to know that if you want to eat it when it's warm, which is the best time to eat it, quite honestly, you have to cut it very carefully. You want to go up and down. Don't press down hard. Go very carefully. Try to use sort of a sharp knife. Up and down. Take your time. Otherwise, you'll just squash it because it's still kind of moist in there, you know? So you want to, see, I'm sawing down on it kind of carefully. Like that. And then all there is to do is to invite your partner in crime to come into view and have him have a bite. What do you think? Did we do okay?
You left a rough edge there, so I think you need to cut off another piece, or else it's very embarrassing if you were to give this to anyone.
So he doesn't like the butt end. Actually, he'll eat the whole butt end, and then he'll want another slice. But that's when you know you've done a good job. So I hope you'll try this recipe at home. You'll have a lot of happy people in your house if you do. I miss you guys. Take care.